Good morning, everybody. Today's going to be kind of a crackhead rant because that's what I do. So I kind of want to talk about, hopefully you guys can hear me fine, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I want to talk about interconnectedness and stuff. There's this weird connectedness in the world that I feel like humans have forgotten. And I don't know if the animal kingdom feels it or still really recognizes it. But I've definitely felt it at times. And I think it's one of the things that stems empathy for people is the subconscious knowledge of this, what I consider truth. I know in one of my last videos I alluded to it a little bit with some of my theories on quantum entanglement. Nice. We have smoke. No more bugs. I theorized that quantum entanglement is the science trying to prove this, or not trying to prove it, but uncovering, even maybe unwillingly, the interconnectedness of everything. So like if I were to hurt somebody, I would also be hurting myself due to that just inherent connectedness. And you see a lot of people that have NDEs. They talk about this. They talk about this returning to the whole. They call it God. This whole is a godlike figure to them, or even gods, like plural. But it's really strange to think about it, and to think about why we have individuality. Have you ever just sat and just listened to the woods? Just sit in the woods and listen? Not even really meditating, not trying to get the thoughts out of your mind like a lot of people that meditate do, but just, I guess, meditating on just the sounds around you and all that's going on. There's an insane amount of things going on all the time. Like I was joking with my wife on the drive out here, that if this were a simulation, like a lot of people believe, I personally don't believe it's a simulation, like a lot of the conspiracy theories out today do. But I was joking that if it was a simulation, it would take a massive fucking processor to make this work, because the amount of things going on. As a computer guy, like I can appreciate how much power it would take to run this. So if it was something like the movies The Matrix, it would be crazy. But it's strange that there's a lot of spiritual believers, a lot of I would say more ancient beliefs when it comes to religion that point toward this interconnectedness. And it's something that a lot of people have strayed away from with the invention of things like Christianity and all that, you know. Not that everything in Christianity is wrong. I know I pick on Christianity a lot because it's, I would say, of the Abrahamic religions, it's the one I understand the most. And still, I don't understand very much of it. Campfire time. But I don't know. I guess when you disconnect from the whole like that, you stop honoring death the way it should be honored. You know, somebody that hunts a lot will generally they will respect their kill, if that makes sense. Yes, you're ending its life, but you're doing it in a manner that you're respecting that creature. Like animist belief, you're respecting the fact that it's part of the cycle of life. You're not just ruthlessly killing this creature. Oh, nice, love it. Um, and I think we've disconnected to the point where we don't respect life anymore. You got people just murdering each other left and right, especially around where I live. There's like a shooting a day on average. Sometimes 2 or 3 shootings in a day. You'll have a fucking like start the day out with a triple homicide. It's to the point where if you don't have a localized like news app like Citizen or something or Indy 911, I live in Indiana. I'm not in Indiana now, thankfully, but unless you have one of those localized self-reporting news apps, you're not even going to know this shit's going on. It's so common that they don't even report murder anymore where I live. It's like, yeah, we're going to talk about this cow or fucking traffic. And I believe that's due to a disconnect in the whole. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that people are just killing each other. And I know I talk about us being massively overpopulated, but there's other ways to naturally cull the population rather than fucking murdering each other and then continuing to reproduce, you know? If you're going to kill each other, stop reproducing. Stop making assholes. So this interconnectedness, I believe, is an essential thing to really to try to come to terms to. From an empathy standpoint, one of my theories is that people that don't feel empathy, that don't even have the capacity to feel empathy, let's say somebody with antisocial personality disorder or psychopaths, for people that aren't into psychology. Psychopath is your more generic term, I guess, but there's no actual diagnosis of psychopathy. It's, I believe, all falls under the category of antisocial personality disorder. And I guess I just thought of this. That the term antisocial does kind of mean like anti of the social circle, anti-whole in a way. But I believe that these people that don't have the capacity to feel empathy have completely separated themselves, whether willingly or not. I know there's your differences between psychopathy and well, I guess a sociopath. There are 2 different types of diagnoses in there. But they've separated themselves from the whole to where they can do things to other living things and not feel anything. It's interesting to me, like how somebody can be that disconnected and just not feel, not have that CNS or the fight or flight feeling when something like that happens, you know? Get pulled over by the cops with a body in your trunk and your heart rate doesn't fucking go past 60 BPM because you're in resting state still. That blows me away. So it's one of my theories. Probably not accurate, but interesting to think about nonetheless. That separation. And not that killing is inherently bad when it's meant for survival. Me personally, like, I've never understood sport fishing. That's something, you know, and I have a friend, somebody that I highly respect. she thought I was really weird because I just couldn't just go fish and then catch the fish and then return it. Because to me, like, yeah, on one hand, okay, this is practicing a potential survival skill. Not that fishing is that hard, but I mean, it can get complicated, don't get me wrong, but it's not hard to just catch something to eat if you need it, even as far as building a fish trap. So on one hand, yes, you are practicing a survival skill, but on the other hand, you're just hurting other living things for fun. You're just doing this for fun, and I never understood that. As you're not getting paid, and even then, hurting other things for money is just as fucked up. But at least there's some reward out of it, other than just the fun of hurting things, I guess. You're just hurting things just to enjoy it, and you feel a sense of accomplishment when you've hurt this creature. And I feel like that's just solely a human trait. I mean, I'm not an animal expert. I love animals. I get into them. I study their behavior. Not really textbook study, but when I see them, I watch them. I watch how they behave. And as far as I know, there's no other creature on the planet that does this. So to me, that's really weird, and that's something I never understood. And I don't know if that means, maybe I'm just weird, maybe I'm just an outlier of the human race, or maybe I'm more connected to this whole, and I understand that creature is part of me, in a sense. But I wholeheartedly believe that we are part of a whole, that we are one, I guess, one consciousness. The only goal in life is to experience. I may have alluded to this in one of my previous videos. It's hard keeping track of this shit, as busy of a person as I am. Burn, motherfucker. Getting sidetracked here, trying to do several things at once. But I believe that we are part of this whole, and back to just sitting and listening to the woods, and you can understand that there's so many things going on, so many crazy things just near you, just in your immediate surroundings. There's so many things right now. Here, I'm making a fire. There's life forms scrambling away from this to prevent being burned. Down here, this holocaust that I may be creating right here, or whatever you want to call it. That's probably not an accurate term, but I am decimating this little small area of life. All the microbiome going on there, the fungus living on the stuff that I'm setting on fire. Just an absolute tragedy right here, but 3 feet away there's a spider or an ant nest, and they don't even know that this is going on. There's birds up in the trees. Some of them are aware that there's a fire down here. Some of them aren't. Some of them don't care. But just here, around me, there's so many things going on. And to think that the entire planet is like that. So, to try to even wrap your head around that is for me personally almost as difficult as trying to wrap my head around the possibility of an infinite universe, of space just infinitely existing where there's no end. Or on the flip side, there is an end to space, and what's on the other side of it? What is space? That's stuff that is hard for me to wrap my head around, just like the amount of things going on. So, to me, us being part of the whole and given life in biological form and in the the brain to experience, not even the brain to experience, but the ability to experience life just as a fungus would experience it. Fungus don't have a brain. Jellyfish, I don't believe, have brains. Jellyfish are from a fucking another planet, though. Jellyfish, octopus, and spiders are not from Earth. Damn it. I'm standing on that hill. I will die on that hill. So the purpose of life is to just experience it. And I don't want to say that there's like a set path for life, but I believe we're all here to experience certain things. However we get to those things is up to us. I guess free will to an extent. But I don't want to really get into all that right now because that's a complicated conversation. Free will versus destiny. I've heard a lot of good analogies covering that subject that I could use here to help portray an idea, but like I said, I don't really want to get too deep into that today because I just fucking woke up. I didn't sleep good. I got a fucking call, a market call. I got to be on here soon. That sucks. But with that, with us being given a brain, I want to say specifically a brain of some type that's capable of experiencing life as a biological form in order to, I guess maybe to report this to the whole or the collective experience of all life, of everything that's ever lived, this collective experience, I guess is just that, a collection of life experiences, all the way from the trees around me to the bugs to me. But being given this brain that's only able to process so much, I believe we have to be separate from the whole. We have to be given the concept or the illusion of individuality. Because back to trying to comprehend everything that's going on and the connectedness between it all is absolutely mind-boggling. It would be devastating to a human brain to comprehend something on that level. And people that have gone on crazy psychedelic trips have experienced things like this, where they've opened up, where they've been opened up and they've seen the world as a whole, and it's life altering. Sometimes in a very, very bad way, sometimes in a good way. And a lot of these people come out of this with severe depression and anxiety. A lot of people come out of this experience with NDEs. By NDE, I mean near-death experience, or somebody visiting the near-death environment, I should say. Just for people that don't watch the shit that I watch or read the shit that I read, so you know what NDE is. But a lot of people come out of that after experiencing that absolute bliss. They come back into the individual form with severe depression and anxiety, and sometimes even deeper, permanent psychological issues. It's like the way I like to describe it when I'm talking to people, to put it into perspective, it's like you feel happiness and you feel sadness. Yeah, and sometimes those just single or double feelings that you can have, anger and sadness, or frustration and anger, sometimes just two emotions is overwhelming. It's hard to comprehend. But I've been in a state of mind where I've felt every single emotion that I can imagine all at once, and it broke me. It absolutely just decimated my mind. for a period of time. Luckily, I was able to rebound out of that pretty quick. I know I've alluded to some of my history in past videos, but I've been through a lot in life. Um, I'll be 40 here in a couple of days, and I've probably lived enough life to be 70 or 80 at this point. I've experienced things that most people probably never will, and lucky for them that they won't. Um, with that said, there's always that polarity in it. You know, yes, I've experienced terrible things, but I've also experienced positive things that are life altering. So imagine trying to feel every emotion at once, and now multiply that like by 1,000. And I think that's why we see ourselves as individuals. And I'm gonna go into a little bit here. The concept of being an individual is both a good and a bad thing. One, in the sense that I'm talking about with the collective experience of life, it is a good thing because it protects our brain from blowing the CPU, blowing the RAM, destroying us. But then as a society, because humans are pack animals, we need I want to say a non-civilized, a unity, a pack to survive properly in nature. So in that aspect, the concept of being an individual is a terrible thing. And I believe that's one of the things that creates a lot of the problems, like a lot of the murders around where I live are for monetary gain. They're trying to take something from somebody, or somebody is taking something from them and they want that back. The majority of the murders are that, or ego-based. You pissed me off, you know, I lost a fist fight with you, so I'm going to shoot you now because I'm a little bitch, you know? It tells you what I think about people who do that shit. They're little bitches. Fight me if you don't like it. They can fucking come and fight me, but don't bring a fucking gun. Don't be a bitch and bring a gun. Just fight me. I'll probably get my ass kicked, but it'll be fun. But especially I can't speak for other countries because I don't live in other countries. I've only been outside of the country a couple times. But in the U.S., we are a very individual-based society. Like, they push that you have to be an individual. You turn 18, you need to be out of your house. If you're not out of your house at 18, even people of the opposite sex are going to look down on you. And while that's not inherently true, because a lot of people still live with their families. That's not inherently true, but that's pushed into our heads that so much that we believe that it's true. So we're pushed out into the individual landscape. You need to have a car, and it's you against the world. Okay, exploit this group of people in order to get ahead. But what about that group of people that you're exploiting? Do you not want them to get ahead? This is why I would be a good business owner, but it would be bad for my own personal interest. Because if I started my own business, I would be training every single person to fill the role that I'm filling and to make it in life. Because I want everybody to make it. The only time I wouldn't want somebody to make it is if they were going against me and trying to stop me from thriving in life. I give everybody an honest and full chance at being the best that they are, and I offer them the respect that they deserve until they prove to me that they don't deserve it by disrespecting me. And that's partially ego. A little bit of that is ego, but a little bit is also, if you don't want me to win, I'm not going to help you win. If you want me to win, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you can rise above and also win with me. So in that aspect, I would be a bad business owner because, yes, I would get ahead in life a little bit, but I would be getting rid of the people that I depend on to build myself up, because I also want them to build themselves up. I want us all to rise as a whole slowly rather than me rise fast and these people stay down here, if that makes any sense. So this is something that's pushed in schools a lot. It's pushed in every thread of our society, or our civilization. I don't fucking like human civilization now. It's terrible. I hate to get a little bit Unabombery on you guys, but industrial civilization is a terror on the planet. And anybody that sits and really truly thinks about it will understand. Now I've not read this dude's what is it, Ted Kaczynski or something. I've not read his manifesto, but I have a general outline of what he stood for and why he was mad. I don't know why that caused him to bomb things. I would never go out and do that, but his push against industrial civilization makes sense to me. But that's looking at life as a whole. And looking at life as a whole, not just human life, brings me to another point I may have alluded to in another video. I don't want to get all controversy minded on here, or start a controversy, but talking about pro-life versus pro-abortion. This is a thing that's fascinated me. People want pro-abortion because they're concerned about human rights. People want pro-life because they're concerned about human life, human rights. Both of them are about rights. Both of them are about the right to live as humans. But I've not seen one take on it that isn't just based off of humans. That is not about the human race. I'm pro-life. I am a very pro-life person, which means I'm pro-human abortion. Not that I don't think babies have a right to live. Not that I don't think that women should have a right to choose what they do with themselves. And this is excluding the argument that the baby's life is separate from the mother's life, that they're separate bodies. That's a whole other argument. That's something I don't need to get into to make my point. I am for the right for people to choose. I am for the right to have abortions, and I am for the right to live, all at the same time. And I know that doesn't make sense, but I'm looking at this from a perspective that nobody else that I've ever seen debate this topic has ever stepped away from the human ego and looked at it this way. I look at it like this. There's too many fucking people. I don't care what you say, there's too many people. There's way too many of us. Which means we gotta go. Some of us have to go. If not all of us, if we don't start behaving. The earth will take care of us. The planet will do what's right with us in order to make room for the greater community of life. The more people there are, the less other life forms there are. Then I got into the whole analogy of thermodynamics in my last video about how there's only a set amount of energy, and while that may be inherently untrue, it's a helpful way to look at it to try to understand where I'm coming from on this. It's a helpful analogy. So the more humans, the less other life there are, because of the resource table and the impact we have on the resource table, because of us hunting and farming to feed ourselves. Again, the agricultural era was the beginning of the downfall of the human race. If not slightly before that, but So when I say that I'm pro-life, I mean pro-all life, which means that we need to call the human race back some. I know some of you are probably going to think I'm nuts, but it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. I've talked to a few other people in a small community of people that I talk to that this makes sense to them as well. So it's pro-life in the sense that you're stepping out of the human ego and you're not just concerned about you. There's concerned about you, then there's concerned about your race, and then there's stepping away from those two ego-based things and being concerned with the entire community of life. And even that is still based off of survival and ego. And when I say ego in this sense, I don't mean like negative ego necessarily. I mean, I don't mean like narcissistic personality disorder level ego. I mean ego in the sense that it's a survival instinct. Ego is a survival. The base ego is a survival instinct. If you look at I forgot what his name was, but he had ego, super ego, and id. And I believe it was ego that was based. And in his theories, I know a lot of people think he's crazy. I want to say Carl Jung or however you say his name. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've discussed that topic. So I mean that in the sense that it is essential for survival. And even my stance on the greater community of life, it seems more selfless, but it's still selfish. In the sense that I understand that the greater community of life is essential for the continuation of the human community of life, of the human race. You know, if the bees and the pollinators all die out, the flowers die out. If the flowers die out, you know, that causes something else to die out, which causes something else to die out. You know, if you kill all the eucalyptus plants, the fucking koalas will die out. I think it's koalas. I always get this all mixed up. Like I said, it's early. It's early and my brain works too much, too fast. So my brain works faster than my mouth can move, which is probably a good thing. Or I'd say a lot of fucked up things. But so it's still based on ego. In the survival sense. So I wanted to point that out so I don't just seem all high and mighty about this. It's like, oh, I care about all life forms. Yes, I do care about all life forms, but it's got a selfish origin. I had an interesting concept. One of the friends that I have that taught me a lot about psychology, she explained to me that everything is selfish in the end. Even the most selfless of acts have an origin of selfishness, and I argued with her about it, and I didn't want to come off of my stance. I was like, no, there's a way to be truly selfless, and it's like, no, there fucking isn't. After the more I thought about it, the more what she said made sense. It's an interesting thing to think about to me. And you see it a lot, like you'll see someone make a video of them helping a homeless man. You know, okay, that's selfish because you're making a video. While your video may have the intended purpose of spreading this message that you should help people, you are still the star of the video. You're still getting that. You're getting personal gratification for doing that thing. You're getting rewarded on a chemical level in your brain for doing what you believe is right. And in a lot of scenarios, it's not the right thing to do. Not necessarily helping a homeless person, but there's a million different scenarios where we get chemical rewards for doing what we believe is right based off of what society told us. And yes, I fully endorse helping people when they're down, whether they're homeless or just going through a rough time. Falls back onto the caring about the greater community of life and the connectedness of everything. But even without the video, like, I mean, with the video, you're getting that chemical reward on top of getting social recognition for that. So you're like, you're getting rewarded on several levels there, and even without the video, you're still getting rewarded on a chemical level, which makes it have a selfish element. I'm not saying that the entire act is based off of selfishness, but it has a selfish element, which means that of all the thinking about this that I've done, I've not found a scenario that doesn't have a selfish element to it. Yes, it may be 99% selfless, but there's that 1% that's still selfish. Which is an interesting thing to think about. If anybody can come up with a scenario where there's not an element of selfishness, I would like to hear that. But it was an interesting thing. So to wrap this up, I gotta be on this fucking market call here soon. I don't know. I'm probably missing the beginning of it, but whatever. To wrap this up, I'm going to ask people to really meditate on the connectedness of everything. To understand that the completely unrelated events and scenarios have an inherent connection. Yeah, there's a bombing in Yemen. There's a mass shooting in Colorado, and there's somebody somewhere between Michigan and Indiana taking a piss in a little hole-in-the-wall bathroom with a little quirky sign by the toilet about not leaving piss on the toilet seat. And these things are all connected in a very abstract and strange way. And the greater experience of the whole, I would say, is more important than the experience of the individual. I have a lot of trouble with this, where I'm doing something innocent, like I'm doing this right now, and there's just atrocities going on elsewhere. The Holocaust in the fire pit, and the spider 2 meters away that is living his best life eating. The individuality is important, and me trying to break through that. I don't want to call it an illusion, but maybe it is. The illusion of individuality. Me trying to break through that it's challenging. It's challenging, and I can't say that while it has, the years I've been battling this has produced positive results. It's caused my empathy levels to skyrocket to an almost painful level. And I don't mean that like I'm one of those empath people that feels other people's emotions and is burdened by everything. I don't mean it in that sense, but it literally causes me hardship at times. It's so powerful that it hurts at times. So there is that positive, but there's also that very negative drawback. So if you really dive into this, I would suggest baby steps. If you're able to even make any leaps, I've never been able to make any huge leaps in it. It's always been baby steps for me. But the caution, protect your mental health. I know this is a strange thing to even ask of people, and especially in the United States society, good old America. It's a concept that's very foreign because we're so every man for themselves, to the point where we murder other people to get what we want, and where we exploit other people to get what we want. I'm sure it's like that in other countries. Because I know the diversity of the human race is dwindling down to just one, which is terrible. So yeah, I guess that's all I got. I got to get on this call. There's a spider making a nest on my foot. Little guy. So hopefully in all that rambling, something came out of this. I'll catch you guys later.